Hello, everybody, and welcome to Feeling Seen, the podcast that talks about the movies that make us feel seen. In this episode, we are going to look at 1973's Paper Moon, the classic film from Peter Bogdanovich, through the eyes of my co-host for today, Bree Elrod. Plus, at the end of the show, I'm going to take a bit of a left turn, and we're going to talk a bit about the state of horror in 2021, some hits and highlights, including a special shout out to Fear Street, and I'll tell you why when we get to the end, so stick around for that. But now, without any further delay, let me give that co-host of mine a proper introduction. She is an actor, and you can see her in Sean Baker's new film, Red Rocket, a performer on the stage and on the screen, Bree Elrod. Is there anything else we need to know about you, Bree, before we get started?
No, I think you covered it. You got it. You said the movie, you said my name, you said Red Rocket. No, I think we're good.
we're off and running. And this is I think this could be the first like vintage classic that we've discussed here on the show.
Really?
With Peter Bogdanovich's Paper Moon, starring Ryan O'Neal as a con man turned father figure to little Addie Loggins, a orphan girl turned con artist in her own right, who everybody's not totally sure if he's her dad or not. Like, right. Seems like it could be likely, but maybe also not. And then they take off on a small crime spree across the southern United States during the Dust Bowl to ostensibly get her to her only surviving family member's house. But we spend most of our time with them on the thieving journey along the way.
That's right.
So this is a 73 film. When did you first see Paper Moon?
I mean, I had been hearing about it for years, and I had heard, I think that Tatum won the Oscar for it. She won the Academy Award. I think she was the youngest person to win an Oscar. And she, and so I'd heard about her performance in it. Yeah. So I always wanted to see it. And I did not get a chance to see it until a couple of years ago. And I watched it a couple of years ago, and I was like I was so moved. I thought it was such an amazing film, and particularly her performance. I was just completely floored by her natural, just her instincts. And, being a young girl, having grown up in Kansas, certainly not during the Dust Bowl, but like I could connect to her of like, there was something about her that just seemed so, I just was like, oh yeah, I get her. I get her.
Well, I really appreciate that you had only seen it just a couple years ago, because I think that speaks so strongly to the power of performance that you, as a very much an adult woman who has seen so many films and could absorb so many, like expressions of this art throughout your life. And then you see this with a tiny little girl.
Right.
And you're still like, God, that performance, like this character is really resonating with me. And I am past this point in my life to where Addie could be like my one-to-one. But at the same time, what she's doing is so sincere, and what she's doing is so real that I sort of can't help but be just sort of taken aback by it.
I was completely floored. And I just like, her character is so just, it's not an easy character. It's, and the levels that she has to play in that film of like wanting to be completely okay by herself, but also being a young girl and like needing the help and support of an adult. And kind of just like, she's just such a little badass. And like, she's like instigating a lot of these crimes that they're doing. She's so smart, she's so smart. I just thought, and kind of like Red Rocket in that she hadn't had a ton of, I don't think, at least previous film experiences.
No, I'm pretty sure that was an introducing Tatum O'Neal situation. Like,
yeah, that's what I think too.
First role.
And so, part of the fun of Red Rocket was working with these first-time actors who aren't all in their head about like acting shit. You know what I mean? Like there's this kind of freshness to it. And I felt that in her performance, that there weren't these years of just kind of, there are brilliant actors who, over the years have grown through acting, but like there's something beautiful about watching someone in the craft the first time exploring the world in such a beautiful way.
It's such a, and first or very early performances, it's so special when you see like the fact that, it's a different kind of film entirely, but like The Crush is Alicia Silverstone's first film.
Oh my God. Wow.
oh my God, wow. In so many ways, oh my God, wow. But like you watch, like that person comes on screen and you're like, that's a star.
Yep.
Keira Knightley, when she comes on the scene with Pirates of the Caribbean, like Love Actually, Bennett Like Beckham in that little frame, you're like, that's a sensation.
Yep.
Jennifer Lawrence in Winter's Bone.
Oh God,
she had obviously had credits up to that point, but you see her in that and you're like, of course this is an Academy Award. Like the amount of just raw instinctual ability that can be captured at a young age like that. Like it is not greater than or less than other kinds of more honed or crafted performances, but it's just a different kind of its own kind of greatness.
Exactly. I feel that way. And I think you can sense it. You can feel it. And, and even like with Red Rocket and Susie, Susanna Sun, who was found, she just, Sean saw her from across the way at the ArcLight Cinema in LA and just was like that she has it. And
that makes is he America's foremost casting director, Sean Baker?
Pretty much, yes.
For basically seeing people from quote unquote across the room, for seeing somebody from the distance between himself and a porta potty, like literally for this film, like this man, he's undefeated in just knowing who has it.
Yeah, he really does. He has this like special eye for who would be perfect, or who he thinks would be perfect for these roles. And he, he's like, sometimes it doesn't always work out and you have to end up doing a little bit more coaching, or you have to and he's like, it's not a perfect science. And he was like, but I do feel like I have been able to find some incredible performers just from seeing the way that they move in the world, which is remarkable, and I think that's part of the beauty of Red Rocket is like that the performances that are given by these people who are first time actors are really just like refreshing, and real and awesome.
Well, and I feel like that's an interesting position to be in as a veteran actor like yourself, knowing that like he can pick out these sort of movements among these novice or brand new people, but he also has to know who's going to be able to work at a chemistry level with these people and know that like that is not going to be a stylistic or clash, because obviously you need to have chemistry between characters. That's part of casting, but that is such a specific thing to be like, I was reading Samantha Kwan, that she's the producer. She was the one who called you, right, and was like, Bree, I think she said like, I was working out, I dropped my barbell and was like, I need to call Bree about auditioning for Lexi. Like, to know that, like, I so instinctually feel, and she says, I think the quote I read was like, Sean watched 1 second of the film and was like, that's Lexi. Like that, there she is right there. And to know that like, he's going to incorporate a veteran performer with people who are so new, he has to know that they're going to be generous enough and abiding enough on screen to be able to play and be in conversation with those. Like that's an interesting way to come. It's an interesting cast to be asked to be a part of.
It really is. And, and though I am a veteran, performer, it's been mostly stage. So like, I am still learning myself how to navigate my way around the film world. And Simon really was the one who had the most experience with, and Sean, obviously, with film and performances. And that was like a huge compliment. I think it's Todd Phillips who was doing the Q&A with Sean and Simon. And afterwards, he was like, one of the things that I appreciated about your performance is that in these scenes, you were also like directing the people who were first time in the way that they were watching you to see what world they were living in.
Totally.
And you had to be fully committed to that world for them to see, oh, okay, this is the world we're playing in. And I thought that was such a huge compliment. And I hadn't even really thought about it, but I was like, oh yeah, I guess. I mean, just as much as I was looking to them for a freshness and a naturalness and like, just, is this how you say something down here? Or is this, I don't
want to come off like a jackass here. Like, am I for real right now?
I want exactly. And I'm like, Brenda, and do I sound like someone that you would know down here? Or do I not sound like Brenda plays Lil, my mom?
Yeah.
And she was very, and then other times she would be like, why do we have to do this so many times? Didn't we do it right? What did we do it wrong? What did we do wrong? And I'm like, Brenda, we didn't do anything wrong. They just have to film it from different angles. We have to do takes, but like that kind of thing I was able to help her with, and then she was like, I love cigarettes, but I'm smoking too much. And I said, Brenda, you can't do real cigarettes for every take.
Oh my God.
And I was like, please have some of my herbals. She's like, so, those kind of things that you wouldn't know if you have never done film before.
Seriously. Oh my God. Like you're still a smoker, but you'd be waking up the next morning like,
She was like, I like cigarettes, but this is too much. I was like, Brenda, I don't know what to tell you, but you got to stop smoking all of those real cigarettes. And I think actually by the end, we ended up leaving her with a pack of like herbals with the hope that maybe she was like, making the transition. No, I don't think she did, but
yeah, Brenda's doing Brenda wherever Brenda is right Brenda.
Now. She is so sweet. Yeah.
Well, this is it was as I was watching Paper Moon, I was thinking about. I was like, wow, I'm actually really excited about this as a movie in conversation with Red Rocket because it feels like a movie Sean Baker would make.
It does.
Like, I was like, wait a minute. This feels like a stylistic sort of origin point for the work that this is the Dust Bowl project, kind of situation.
No, you're absolutely right. I never really thought about that, but it does kind of show a slice of life that is, probably not that accepted back then, especially of like these con artists who are like literally stealing, trying to, selling fake Bibles from the Kansas Bible Supply, whatever, to people that they know whose husbands have died. I mean, they're preying on
to the recently bereaved in the middle of the greatest economic collapse in American history.
No, absolutely right. It does seem like really dark, but and it's also like a father-daughter, like which is kind of the Florida Project mother-daughter kind of thing. I could totally see that. And it's funny because A24 had kind of a sister film experience with Come On. Because that was coming out around the same time. We had a chance to like hang out and Telluride with like Mike Mills, and he actually said that Paper Moon was one of his inspirations for Come On. Yeah, and that makes so much sense, especially the black and white and the camaraderie between the two leads. That's an older man and like a younger kid, and like and the trust and the hate and the frustration and the love and the, and I was like, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I think that this movie is so Paper Moon is just, I really enjoy it so much. And I think that every time I watch it, I learn something new and the performances are just so good.
What was the moment when you knew that Addie had her hooks in you? When were you like, ooh, I'm all in for that? Is it her screaming $200?
I heard you through the door talking that man. It's my money you got and I want it.
Now, you just hold on a second.
I want my money. You took my $200.
Will you quiet down? You hear?
I want my $200.
Hold on now. Just hold on.
That is it. That really, like, the unrelenting $200 is so good. I mean, I think that, and when she, like, exactly in the moment you said, when she says the $24 or she like ups the price of the Bible, like, I just was like, oh yeah, I am with this chick. I am so with her. And I just is, she just is like she's just such a little badass. And I just, and that she's also, like you said, she's not, and her performance is not precocious or precious. Like it's just a kid being a kid trying to survive in given circumstances that are very difficult, very hard. And any other kid would be like, well, I guess I'll figure this out. But I love that moment at the end when she like goes to that family and she sees what her life could be with that family. And she makes the decision, which I think is such a beautiful moment too, that many of us have had of like, this is a decision that's going to change my life for better or for worse. This actually seems like it may be the better idea for me to do this, but I don't want it. I'm going to do this. You know, I loved that about her, that she was like, this is where I'm supposed to be and I don't want to be here. So I'm going to make the decision to do something else. And to be with him. And I love that moment so much, where you just see this in her face, that she's like, this is where I was supposed to be. This is the road brought me here.
Mm-hmm.
This destination is not where I want to be. It was the journey that made her who she is, and the journey that she wants to continue on.
I told you, I don't want you riding with me no more.
You still owe me $200.
Well, and I feel like that's so much. I feel like I don't know somebody in the arts who hasn't had that moment.
Oh, yeah.
Where they've ended up in the house that's, the house, literal or metaphorical, that's more certain and more stable. But then they're like, nope.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to choose the sort of the quote unquote wrong thing because it's the thing that I have to have.
Exactly. I mean, there's so many examples of that I have in my own life. And one of them being I was political science in college, and I was going to go to law school. My mom's a law professor. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do. And then I just was like, I want to act, I was like, and so if I want to act, then I need training. At that time, I was like, I need to train.
Yeah.
And so, after I got into Juilliard and I got into NYU, and I was like, this is my path, and it is definitely the more unstable path. And, as
someone who's spent their life working in journalism and now journalism and film, I've clearly never met a practical career that I wanted to pursue.
Thank you. Okay.
Clearly.
Thank you. I mean, listen, yeah, exactly. Journalism's similar.
The number of times I wish that I loved computer science. Not that I wish I was doing it, but that I wish I loved it.
Me too. I think that all the time. I'm like, can I just code something? Can I learn medical coding and just get and have a 9-to-5 and make a sick amount of money? And then
can I be passionate about civil engineering, please?
Thank
you. For the love of God.
No, I wish that.
Turns out I can't.
But I can't. I know. I really can't. No, and I have to say, and maybe also why I'm drawn to Addie is one of the instrumental moments in my life in making that decision was I was an intern with the 52nd Street Project in New York City, and it's in Hell's Kitchen, and they take kids from Hell's Kitchen and they make art with them, and the kids write the plays. And so it's giving these kids this agency to share what they're going on through art,
Mm-hmm.
And I think in watching that, it made me realize how transformative the theater can be, that it's not just for, to be honest, rich, white, 60-year-old women who are the traditional people who are going to plays in New York, but it can change lives on all levels and all socioeconomic areas if it can get there. And I think that was really what pushed me into it, was this isn't just an ego project for me. And this isn't something that I just am I want to be in the spotlight. I want to use this to hopefully maybe change somebody's mind about something, or have them look at something in a different way. And, working with those kids really opened me up in such a way that I was like, wow, these kids are writing about things. There was a kid who's wrote about a cat who's the cat dad was in jail, and the cat dad wasn't going to get out of jail. And they were will the cat dad be out before Christmas? And there's a cat thing. And then I'm just oh my God. The things that these kids have been experiencing. And, the same with Addie, it's the things that people go through in their lives, and that they, in order to survive, and how they become survivors. I love sharing those stories. And, and I kind of feel with Red Rocket, Lexi is a survivor. And I was,
it seems like that is sort of the core around which the rest of her is organized. She's going to survive.
Yeah.
And her mom is worried about her because she's going to do what she needs to do to survive. Yeah. And she might not be safe in certain decisions that she makes to do that. That with that kid, are you in? I don't want her out there anymore. It's just not safe. But Lexi's going to do what she has to do. I know that I had spoken with one of the studio folks about this, and I know the film had been shared with professional sex workers. Were there sex workers involved in consultation in the making of the movie? And I wondered if you had any communication with any of the.
I had not had direct communication with the people that Sean had talked to about certain things, and when he was writing it. I have a friend who works with sex workers in Brazil, and so watching her over the years kind of deal with that, or kind of work with them, I kind of I always have had respect for sex workers, and I've always felt it was a completely legitimate profession. And And I think that my journey into researching was more how to play her as a natural human who has wants and needs and has done this for work. And, is that, that was her job. That's what made her money. And, so I definitely did some research, and I watched these like porn documentaries, and, I watched these. So funny because I was living with my brother and I was like, I'm watching, it's for a film. I'm not watching loud porn in here. But it was really helpful to kind of get an inside view of what that world really is, and what it takes to do that work, which is hard.
That's a hard job. My God, customer service is hard. Customer service when you are the service, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Dealing with customers is horrible in retail. These people dealing with customers at this level of like connection to their self, that is the hardest job I can imagine doing.
Oh, it's so hard. And I think that's the biggest compliment we've gotten is that people who are in the industry, there were a few people that I met at the premiere in LA who are in the industry, and they came up to me and they were like, we know Lexi. Like we know Lexi's.
Right.
Like you, and they felt like they were, talk about being seen. I mean, they felt like they had been seen in this film, like they felt like my performance or what I was doing was not, like some kind of stereotype, which to me was a huge compliment because I really was trying to avoid that at all costs. That's been really nice to hear people on the other side of it saying that they felt like it was an accurate and legitimate kind of look at people who are in the sex work field.
We are now going to take a quick break, and when we get back, Bree is going to discuss working with the other actors in her film, Red Rocket, both seasoned and brand new to the screen, so stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Dan McCoy.
I'm Stuart Wellington.
And I'm Elliot Kalin.
And the three of us host The Flophouse. It's a podcast where we watch a new bad movie and then we talk about it.
Dan, you say it's hosted by the three of us. We've had a lot of great guest co-hosts like Gillian Flynn, Jamel Bowie, John Hodgman, Jessica Williams, Wyatt Cenac, Joe Bob Briggs, Josh Gondelman, Roman Mars.
Yeah, and you said new movies. But what about the time we did Meatballs 2?
Okay. Yeah, sometimes we do older movies and sometimes we have guests, but mostly it's about us talking about like recent bad movies.
And don't forget about the ones where I made you do a role-playing game where you played cartoon dogs.
All right, yeah.
Shouldn't a promo be a really simple explanation about what our show's about? So what's the show about, Dan?
What's it about?
What's it about?
It's about friendship, all right? It's about our friendship and how we love each other.
The Flophouse. It's a podcast mostly about bad movies on Maximum Fun.
From the internationally acclaimed creators of Who Shot Ya comes the movie podcast Maximum Film, starring producer and film festival programmer Drea Clark as a woman bound by passion.
I saw this 8 months ago on the festival circuit, and I loved it.
Film critic Alonso Duralde as a man corrupted by greed.
Why watch one Hallmark Christmas movie when I can watch 7?
And comedian Ife Wadiwe as a man protecting a love that society simply won't accept.
I think Pacific Rim is a perfect movie. And if you can't accept that, then I want you out of my life.
From the makers of the movie podcast Who Shot Ya comes Maximum Film.
That's right. We changed the name of our show to Maximum Film. But don't worry, we're still a movie review show that isn't just a bunch of straight white dudes.
So tune into Maximum Film at MaximumFun.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Feeling Seen. I'm your host, Jordan Crucchiola, and I'm speaking to Bree Elrod about 1973's Paper Moon. Now, we were previously discussing how you see yourself in the character of Addie Loggins, played by Tatum O'Neal, but what is it like when someone sees themselves in you as an actor, as a professional on the screen? Because obviously, like, you can't be thinking about it all the time because you two are a professional. This is your job. Like, it is one of the sort of the most interesting things to navigate around any conversation with a performer is like, well, I've watched everything you've ever done and I've interpolated these thoughts about a 30,000 foot view of your career. And they're like, it was a job I did and I liked it. And so like, it's like, okay, I'm coming at you with an unfair amount of consideration for like your oeuvre. But like, at the same time, like, what is that like when you have those moments where you know how you experiencing things as a viewer. Like, you know that you watch Paper Moon and you're like, wow, Addie really hit me. Like, that really, what are those moments like when you realize you're the person? Like, when you realize that, like, kind of you're the Addie.
I mean, I've been so moved by people who have reached out to me. And people, you know, like after Cannes, there was a woman who came up to me and was like, you know, I study acting, and I was so moved by your character, and I was so moved by your performance. And to me, it really is just, it's so humbling, and I am so grateful that people are having those experiences, to Lexi and to my work. And I hope that it, you know, it can reach some people, and that people may see themselves in her, you know. And I know a lot of people in my own life and who have been involved in toxic relationships, and
sure.
You know, who you're sitting there going, what do you see in this person? Like, this person is sucking the life out of you, but yet they're drawn to them, and you have to be a supportive friend as much as you can. But like, I think that with Lexi, you know, I think people are rooting for her. And I think that, you know, she's certainly flawed, and, you know, there's a lot about her that's not like awesome, but we all, we all have flaws. And so I'm always moved when people reach out and tell me how much my performance and means to them, even if it's on stage, or, you know. And I did a play once that was, called Constellations, and it's about a woman who ends up developing a brain tumor, and it's really hard. But it, again, kind of like similar that we were talking about when Addie makes that decision at the very end to go with it or whatever.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, whatever.
Yeah, 73 guys, you had time. Yeah, come
on. Exactly. You haven't seen it now.
Yeah, the statute of limitations is up.
But when she decides to go with him, you know, there's that moment where she makes that decision that changes her. And this whole play is basically based on that. It's basically what would happen if you said, no, I don't want a cup of tea from that person. And you ended up missing out on a relationship with that person because you said no. It's kind of like a sliding doors, kind of like, you know, and it's a beautifully written play. It's very hard to do because you think you're in the same scene over and over again. You know, you're kind of like, oh my God. But in doing that, after one of those performances, a man came up to me and he said, you know, I had that thing, the glioblastoma multiforme in my brain. And I have never seen a play that has addressed that. I've never seen a play that's talked about it. And he was like, I really felt seen, you know, I felt seen by this. And I'm like, this is what good art does. Right. And that's why this podcast is here, because it's like,
it is exactly why we're here.
I mean, good art can reflect things back to you that maybe you are connecting to, or maybe that you're not aware of, that you suddenly become aware of. And I think that's so beautiful.
Well, and thinking about, like, you know, working with the new actors, working with the actors from just around, like, you know, it seems like around Texas City, like, was that where sort of Brenda and the actor who played Lonnie, were they both from around that area?
Yeah, they were all from around that area. Britt, who plays June, she was like walking her dog. She worked at the refinery that's actually behind the donut hole.
Right. Yeah.
And so she was out of work because of COVID. And so she was just walking her dog. And then Sean and Alex Coco just rolled up and were like, hey, do you know Florida Project? She was like, no. And,
no.
And he was like, well, if you go home and watch it, I'm a legitimate, filmmaker, and we'd love to have you in this film. And then she ends up being such an incredible, important part in this film. And watching her and watching Lonnie, Ethan and Brenda really kind of explore the world of the film was such a treat. And honestly, like, watching Britt like feel comfortable improvising, you know, in that moment in the end where she's like, I'm going to count to, 30, whatever. And she's like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 30.
Yeah.
She does such an amazing job. And that was part of, because, improv is hard. Improv is hard for even like improvisers who do it all the time.
Improv is hard for stage improvisers who that's their whole deal.
Exactly. And so to actually, like, throw these first time performers and be like, whatever you want to say. way. I mean, and some were able to be a little bit more playful, and then some were a little bit too scared and a little bit timid. But the people, the ones who really kind of stood up to the challenge, really, I mean, were so kind of stand out to me, because it's so brave. It's so courageous to be like, I don't know, I'm just going to say these things. And some of them ended up being some of the best stuff in the film. So
what a perpetually, like, Sean Baker's a big deal. He's a big deal filmmaker, but it is his sort of unique position to where he is constantly being humbled by putting people in his films who might have no goddamn idea who he is or what he's done. Well, have you seen The Florida Project? No.
Yeah.
Like, okay, but I really want you, like, to be as sort of lauded as he is, and be a sort of an event filmmaker. Like, if Sean Baker puts out a movie, you're expecting it's going to have a for your consideration campaign put behind it come award season, and to constantly to find yourself continually pursuing people who have no idea who the hell you are, and you're the one trying to make the case to them. That's a fascinating position for a very big deal director to be in.
It is. It really is. And it's the way he really likes to work. He loves kind of pairing professional actors with first-time actors, because he just feels like it adds such an authenticity to the world he's trying to create. And he's not wrong. And he's been able to do it very successfully. But I think you're right. I mean, I think it is kind of a, again, like kind of like he's shedding all of his ego, because he just wants to make a good product. And in doing that, he realizes that, in order to do that, he's got to find the right connection, the right like chemistry.
He couldn't ever pull like, do you know who I am? Because people be like, no.
Exactly. Well, I know.
And he's like, well, great, because I want to give you a job.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I think that, and then I think once Britt saw Florida Project and Ethan too, I think they were like, oh, this is, yes. Yeah. I want to be a part of this. I want to do this. That's
a good business card. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Well, and it's funny because Sean is like always talking about how he's so sad that like nobody has DVDs anymore, because he used to walk around to be able to like give his DVD to someone and be like, here is Florida Project. Here's Tangerine. Watch these.
You're like, I don't have a disc drive.
It's like, where do I take this? I guess maybe my grandpa has a... So like, I know that it's been hard for him, because now he just kind of has to like really legitimately creep up on people or like,
can I send you a link?
And with Brenda, who he found outside of the porta potty, which you mentioned. Yeah, I mean, that was just, I mean, I don't even think she went home and watched Florida. I think she just was like, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. All right, I'm in.
Yeah. Why not?
Well, I think because there's so much, I mean, a part of doing that has to be like, you have to be perpetually curious. Like you have to be constantly wanting to learn. And I think like, it seems like to do your job most effectively, I feel like performers kind of have to constantly be wanting to learn, or at least like be open to like kind of a ungodly amount of empathy, like to where, and I wondered about like, finding yourself in a position like with Red Rocket, where you kind of find yourself like, oh, it turns out I'm sort of leading from the front here. Like I'm just, because I know what I'm doing here and I'm experienced, I'm a sort of default leader figure. I need to sort of set a tone here. And then you can also go watch a movie with starring a 10-year-old, 9-year-old, probably when she made it, and be like, wow, I am just knocked off my feet as an adult woman by this 10-year-old girl. Yeah. Like I wanted to hear about sort of that effect of, like, what do you learn from a performance when you watch something from a 10-year-old girl who just like you sit down and that shows you a thing or two? Like, what is that like as somebody who does that same job and realizing that like, you know what? 10-year-olds can still teach me a thing or two.
Oh God, absolutely. I mean, I learned so much from Tatum O'Neal's performance, just about like living generously in the given circumstances in the world. And just like I said, her naturalness and her ease. I mean, like there's like this expression in the theater of like, somebody described it, which I thought was such a funny way of saying it, but is actually very accurate. It's like, oh, that person is on stage and does not look like their butthole is clenched, right? So like that basically means that
evocative.
Yeah. Yes. But that basically means that person is, is of ease, that person is at ease. And like one of my greatest acting teachers, Ron Van Loo, when we finally just at the end of our days at NYU grad, we're like, what do you think acting is? Please tell us, like, distill it down to, and he was like, well, I guess if I had to distill it down, it would be doing the most difficult things with the greatest amount of ease.
Oof.
And I think,
that easy?
Oh yeah, I know.
Why didn't you say so?
And it really is, when you see amazing performances, they make it look so easy. And I think that Tatum O'Neal in Paper Moon makes it look effortless, and that is skill. That is not easy. That is not, that is just, it's so beautiful. And talk about like performances of young girls. Like Florida Project. Like we were talking about, that is also a performance, by little Brooklyn, who just put her heart out there, and in such a brave, beautiful way that you're watching the world through her eyes. And I think that's the thing with Tatum too, with Addie, you're seeing the world through her eyes, and you're remembering what it's like to be a vulnerable 10-year-old and like, where you were, and like, gosh, you didn't even have all of these things happening, but still you remember like that feeling of like wanting to not just feel like a tag along, but wanting to feel like, no, I got, I'm an active member of this troop. I've got things to offer to this outfit, And I think that there is kind of this like wanting to feel like you're a contributor even at that age. Watching it is such a lesson, such a masterclass, really, for me. It just as much as watching, like Cher and Moonstruck, or it's like Mahershala in Moonlight. You're just like sitting there, saying, wow, this person is just living so generously in this world. And I thank you for bringing me in, because if they're tense or if anything feels a little off, like you just immediately are taken out of it. But with those performances, I felt like I was in it. I was rooting for them. I wanted to know what their story, how it was going to unfold.
Now, when you were little, were you an Addie, or were you definitely not an Addie?
I definitely had some Addie qualities. I remember I went to my friend's birthday party at a Holiday Inn here in Topeka, Kansas. And we were playing pool, but we ran out of money to play pool. And so I was like, oh, don't worry about it. I could feel the balls in there. I'm just going to stick my hand down in there.
I'll stick my tiny arm in there.
Which promptly got stuck. And so the probably teenager who was working at the Holiday Inn had to come over and help. I was so embarrassed, but I was really, I was trying to steal. I was trying to cheat. That moment particularly is very Addie. And, I really, and it's funny because I actually, when I was growing up, I really liked dresses. I liked wearing dresses. I was I liked all that thing. But I think as I've gotten older, and maybe that's how I respond, I'm more into, I love a good overall situation. I love a good coverall, and I'm, it's the same reason I'm drawn to Scout and To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I see that. Yes. That joins hands with one another.
Yes, exactly. There's this survivor attitude and this no nonsense kind of question asking interrogation of a kid that just I so appreciate, and and maybe I see. One of the things, again, that I learned at NYU grad, we had a clown class with Chris Bays, who is so incredible, amazing teacher. And he says that one of our greatest tragedies as humans is that we grow up and we are taught no all the time. There's a kid in our life as we are little clowns, he says, we're these little clowns going through the world curious. And one of the exercises he has us do is we go around the room and say, hey, looky. And you just look at things that you know what they are, but just point at a light switch and be hey, looky. And you're creating a curiosity that as we get older, we lose. We lose a curiosity as we get older because of life and because of experiences. And so I think his thing is what we have to do is we have to go back. We have to get in a car and pick up that little clown off of the side of the road that that is your little clown, and you got to put it back in the car, and you got to say, you're not leaving. I got you. And I'm going to remain curious. I'm going to remain open. I'm going to have a heart that's ready for anything. And I think that is kind of maybe what I am drawn to in those performances, of Scout and Addie, is that there's this openness and curiosity that I hope that I can still have in my life as a human and as an artist.
I think that I was mulling over another kind of like conclusion question, but I don't think we get better than picking up the clown and putting the clown in the car.
The goddamn clown. Everyone needs to go back and pick up their little former clown self and put it in the car.
Everybody get the clown in the car with you and
get the clown
press
in the
on.
car. And listen, there's a lot that's uncertain in the world, but if you got that clown in your car, there's going to be some good times. Let me tell you, there's going to be some good times.
You're right. At the very least, you've said yes that day. If the clown is in the car with you, you've said yes to life.
You have said yes to life and the adventure once you put the clown in the car.
That can be a horror. That can be a comedy. That can go anywhere.
Yeah.
I cannot wait for Sean Baker's Clown in the Car film. In Topeka, Kansas.
Yes.
In Topeka, Kansas.
Oh my God. Yes. If you and the clown are driving to Topeka, you better believe there's going to be an adventure waiting for you on the road to Topeka with the clown.
Well, I think that takes us to the end. So, Bree, is there anything else you want to wrap up with and say? Anything else you want to let us know, or just say Red Rocket again? Whatever you want to do.
I mean, this has been so much fun. I'm thrilled and honored to be a part of this, and I hope that people will find themselves seen in elements of Red Rocket.
Yeah, and anybody who really had a strong attachment to the song "Bye Bye Bye," surprise, you are in for
get ready.
You are in for treats. With this in so many unexpected ways. Bree, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today about this singular movie. 2021 has been a year of wonderful films. It's like cinema really came. 2020 was not a fallow year. Like with so many blockbusters sidelined, that meant what we had were the indie releases and the small movies that were going to go day and date anyway, that saved us and gave us life. And this movie, Sean Baker, is at maximum Sean Baker mode, and Simon Rex is something to behold. So get out there and see Red Rocket, everybody. And thank you so much, Bree, for joining us today on the pod.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you so much.
That was Bree Elrod, everyone. Go watch Red Rocket. Support small movies that could. This was pulled together in COVID conditions, because everything's pulled together in COVID conditions now. And my God, as Sean Baker does every time, really stitched together sort of something wondrous and unexpected and intimate and small yet expansive. So, the Sean Baker special. So go check out Red Rocket. It is now playing across the country. Now, before we go today, I told you I wanted to discuss some horror highlights of 2021. And I wanted to give a special shout out to Fear Street in that. It came out on Netflix over the summer as a 3-part event. They were spaced a couple weeks apart. And Fear Street, 1994, that first movie. Now, these were, you should know, they were initially being made out at Fox. Then Fox became the behemoth merger that is Disney Fox. And then, things get lost in the reshuffle, but it ended up on Netflix. And Netflix, as you know, is a gargantuan streaming platform. It is one of the most popular ways in the world that people receive their media. And it was one of their biggest summer event releases. And this slasher movie, particularly Fear Street 1994, but it carries throughout the entire trilogy. Fear Street features queer female leads. These movies, these slashers, released by one of the biggest companies in the entire world, beaming films into the homes of millions upon millions upon millions of people around the globe. This studio put its weight behind and made a major event release out of a slasher movie starring gay leads. And I won't tell you how it ends, but I will tell you at the very least, it gives these characters over the course of 3 movies a chance at happiness, a chance at survival, and it's not a movie about a couple people being gay and how hard that is. And I'm here to tell you that is literally at that level we have never seen. We have never seen gay leads at that high a profile before in a studio horror film. We haven't. Hasn't been done. People at the center of the franchise, the ones you're showing up for. I was overwhelmed when I saw. I was texting a dear friend of mine who you may know from the Aughts Tyrion pod and the queer horror documentary he's been working on for years, Sam Weinman. And I asked him, I was like, this is unprecedented, right? Like, we've never seen this before. Not at this level. Not at this high a budget. Not at this level of distribution. He's like, no, this is the first. This is it. And you know, it's hard out there. And as Sam himself would say, friend, you've had a hard year. But this was a good year, as every year is, honestly. But it was another wonderful year for horror. We got the Fear Street trilogy at that level, being bold, being imaginative, being bloody and fun, and groundbreaking in its way. We got Malignant. One of the craziest, just bug-fuck wild movies of the year that HBO Max and HBO impossibly was like, Warner Brothers, HBO, hey, James Wan, you make $1 billion franchise in like Insidious and The Conjuring and Saw. Yeah, sure, we'll give you this big old check to make like one of the weirdest movies to come out this year, one of the most fun and thrilling rides to come out this year, and also, surprise, in like the last third, one of the best American action movies of the year. Get out there, and if you want to see something absolutely pulp, bananas, unhinged, good time, crazy horror, get out there and watch Malignant. But then there are so many smaller films. There's Prano Bailey Bond's Censor that was wonderful. There is Julia Ducournau, the visionary director of Raw, leveled up somehow with Titane. I believe it is France's pick for its submission to be the nation's Academy Award nominee. A virtuoso body horror, queer, non-gender conforming experience of genre wonders. I mean, there's no trying to explain this movie without spoiling any of this movie. So just get out there if you have not seen Titane yet, and whatever you have heard about a car and human machine sex, I swear to you, that is not the craziest thing that you're going to see in that movie. So get out there and check that out. There's The Medium. There's The Vigil. There was David Bruckner's The Night House, which was stunning and with an absolutely full tilt committed performance, one of the contending performances of the year from Rebecca Hall in the lead of that film. There's The Sadness, which was like people, the Twitter meme, like screaming, crying, throwing up. I think the tagline for The Sadness, a zombie feels like it would be reductive, but a rage disease overwhelms the population and then they start acting out humanity's basic instincts. I think the log line for that movie could be screaming, crying, throwing up. The Empty Man came out in 2020, but it premiered in 2021 on VOD, and it finally kind of got the attention that it deserved. It is an epically long, sort of like psycho, ghosty horror movie starring James Badge Dale. Like, there are so many selections for so many appetites this year. The Initiation, like I could go on. That's the thing, is I could go on. And when I tell you to get out there, and I beseech you to get out there and support a little movie like Red Rocket, don't forget the horror films that thrilled and delighted and distracted and enamored and provoked us throughout the course of 2021. Christmas is past. We've made the hard exit. Out of one holiday, we're racing toward another in the new year. But you know what is always around for you? With Christmas scares, Christmas chills, New Year's, Easter, Thanksgiving, whatever, horror is always there for you. So check out any number of the movies that I've mentioned, find any roundup of best horror movies of the year that you can, and start pouring through those lists. And that's our show. You can follow us on Twitter at FeelingSeenPod, or join our Facebook group at www.facebook.com/groups/FeelingSeenPod. You can also email us at feelingseen@maximumfun.org. If you want to follow me, I'm Jorcru on Twitter. It's JORCRU. Our theme music is by Andrew Epen. Our producer is Casey O'Brien. Our senior producer is Kevin Ferguson. And this is a production of Maximum Fun.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned. Audience supported.